Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam kuru me deva sarvakaryeshu sarvada. Saraswati namastubhyam varade kamarupini vidyarambham karishyami siddhir bhavatu me sada. Samasta jana kalyane niratam karunamayam namami chinmayam devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Giri Yatkripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Paramananda Madhavam. So wishing everyone a happy Navaratri. And today our puja will be discourse through Saraswati Mata. So let us read the verses that we covered last time, verses 6 through 8. So chapter 4, verses 6 through 8. Ajopi sannavyayatma bhutanamishwaropi san prakritim swamadhishthaya sambhavatyatma mayaya yada yada hi dharmasya glanirabhavati bharata abhyutthanam tadatmanam srijamyaham paritryanaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. These 3 verses in chapter 4 that we saw, 6 through 8, are on Avatara Siddhanta. Many times we question how is it that unborn, imperishable truth manifests in the world. So in verse number 6, Bhagavan says, Ajaha api, although I am unborn, in front of you I appear, as though I am born. Avyayatma api means even if I am immortal, I am deathless, I appear to die, I appear to go, like how Sri Rama left the world or how Sri Krishna left the world. Bhutanam Ishwaropi san. Even if I am actually that truth present and that pervades in every single being, I appear one among the beings. I appear to be the Lord of all beings when actually I'm the Lord in all beings. Because of me, everything exists. Prakritim swamadhishthaya, taking my own nature, my prakriti, all my qualities, what happens? Sambhavamyatma mayaya. Sambhavami. I appear or manifest in this world through my maya. And we said that for Bhagavan, it's called incarnation, but for Jiva, it's called reincarnation. Because when Bhagavan manifests, it's through his own maya, and he's completely in control of his maya, whereas the Jiva is under the sway of maya. And Bhagavan manifests whenever he feels, But for us, we need to manifest due to our prarabdha karma. And when we leave this world is also due to our prarabdha karma. Whereas Bhagavan can leave whenever he leaves. And so his manifestation is called incarnation or avatar, while ours is called reincarnation. Okay. Now, the question comes after that, but when does Bhagavan manifest? So then the answer to that is verse number 7, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanihi. Whenever there is a decay in dharma, in that which integrates, harmonizes, and upholds society or the nation or the world, then abhyuthanam adharmasya. And whenever there's a rise of adharma, tadatmanam srajamyaham, right? So he comes to manifest himself. Whenever there is a decay in dharma and a rise in adharma, he manifests himself. And we saw this, that he manifests himself in various ways. There's various kinds of avatars, not only one. It's not only Purna like Sri Krishna Rama, but we have the Matsya Avatara, the Narasimha Avatara, the Varaha Avatara, etc. Now, for what does he do it? For what is the purpose? Verse number 8, Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the sadhus, Vinashaya cha dushkritam, for the destruction of the wicked. See, dharma is something that is not concrete. It's not a physical object. So dharma resides in the sadhu. Sadhu is somebody who upholds dharma. And we saw various definitions of sadhu last time. So the one who amidst, the one who's good amidst goodness, that's not a sadhu. But the one who's good amidst all kinds of disturbance, that's called sadhu. And sadhu is also the one who endures their own pain. Whatever's happening to them, they endure it silently, cheerfully. But when somebody else is going through pain, they have such compassion towards it. Tikshavaha for them, but they become karunika for others. So to protect these sadhus and to destroy the wicked, dharma samsthapanarthaya, for the establishment of dharma, sambhavami yuge yuge. Bhagavan manifests every yuga. But we saw last time, it's not just every yuga, every moment, every day, there is a manifestation of God in everywhere. We are also avatars in some way, right? Because God is also in us in some way, but we're not able to manifest that divinity like those other avatars are able to, right? We come with our own karma, we're under the control of Maya, we're in the spell of ignorance, and so we're not able to manifest that divinity, but those avatars are able to. Now, verses 6 to 8 we saw last time. Why should we know all about Bhagavan's avatars? Why should we even talk about it or study about it? The result of the avatars are now given in verse number 9. So this is the connection. Okay, so I'll chant and then you repeat after me. Janma karma cha me divyam.
Janma karma cha me divyam.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
Evam yo veti tattvataha.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Tyaktva deham punarjanma.
Naiti mameti sorjuna.
Naiti mameti sorjuna.
Janma karma cha me divyam. Evam yo veti tattvataha. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. Naiti mameti sorjuna. Now, this is a very important verse. So these verses 6 through 9, actually even 10. 6 through 10 are very important. So in certain chapters, there are these verses that, strike out, means they strike us as very, very heavy and deep. In chapter 4, the first set is this 6 through 9, 6 through 10. What does he say here? He says, Yo veti. Yo veti means the one who knows what? The one who knows janma karma cha. The one who knows birth and action. Of who? Me. The one who knows my birth and action. What kind of birth and action? Divyam. Divyam means divine. So, evam, in this way, in a certain way, the one who knows my birth and action, which are divine, tyaktva, having left this deha, this body, punarjanma na eti, they do not attain rebirth, but mam eti, they attain me. Saha Arjuna, he, that he, she, whoever he be, whoever she be, that person, that being will attain me, O Arjuna. He who thus knows in true light my divine birth and action, having abandoned the body, he is not born again. He comes to me, O Arjuna. So now this is a very, very beautiful verse, and we have to really think about this one. So how is it now? These things seem two different things. Seems like they don't relate to each other, because Bhagavan is saying, he who knows my birth and action, my divine birth and my divine action, he, she, whoever knows it, they do not attain rebirth. So what is the connection? If we know this about Bhagavan, we do not attain rebirth. There seems to be a gap. So first, let's see this word divine. What does this divine or divya word mean? Divya janma means that although that truth is in reality unborn, it appears to be born. This is called divya janma. It is unborn, but it appears to be born. And divya karma or divine action is, although it is the non-doer, it appears to be the doer. So the one who knows this does not have any rebirth. Now, what the essence of this is saying is, we are that same essence, the essence of Ishvara, which is unborn and the non-doer, and the essence of Jiva, which is unborn and the non-doer, is one and the same. And that's why we do not have any rebirth, because the essence of Ishvara and the essence of Jiva are one. Now, many people ask this question, how are we unborn? What exactly does that mean? So now I'm going to explain today with this example. I don't have a pot, but think that this is a pot. This is based on Mandukya Upanishad, on the third prakarana, Advaita prakarana. They talk about how, Gaudapadaji talks about how we are in essence unborn. Okay, so now there's 5 things to know about this jiva. So first we'll talk about the jiva, then we'll talk about Ishvara, then we will put it together. Now, think of this as a pot. This is the mind-body equipment, okay? Now, inside, there is some space. So we call it pot space. And here, there's total space. So here's pot space, and there's total space, and this is the mind-body complex, right? And this is the Jivatma. Jivatma, pot space, and Paramatma is a total space. So who are we exactly? When we say Jivatma, what do we mean? We mean that we are this pot space. Actually, we are just space, but we feel that we are limited by the pot. So we are just pure consciousness, but we feel that we are limited by this body, mind, intellect. So this pot space is actually total space. It's one and the same thing. There is no difference. There's no difference because this pot cannot actually limit space. Nothing can cut space, nothing can divide space. It cannot limit space. So the pot space is the total space. It's actually one thing. But this Jivatma feels like they are this pot space. They're confined. They're confined. So they feel like they are this circle. They feel that they are tall or short, or they feel that they are heavy or light. So we, essentially, that pure awareness, when we identify with this particular body and mind, we feel confined. We feel suffocated. We feel like it's too claustrophobic. We feel uneasy. We will never feel easy with our body and mind because we are not that. We'll never feel comfortable with our body or mind or intellect. We'd always strive to change it, strive to change the condition of it because we are not that. So the Jivatma is this pot space and as well as that total space. So that space is not born. That pot space is not born. That pot space is just a notion. I just feel like it's pot space because there's a pot here, but actually it's really just space. So that Jiva also is a notion. It's not born. It's not there in actuality. Space exists. Consciousness is always there. It's always there. So point number one is there is no utpatti or birth. There's no birth of that consciousness, which you and I are. There's no birth. There is just the notion, which you and I have imagined due to our ignorance. There's no birth. The second point is there's no laya, there's no distraction. Now what happens? This body-mind complex, its karma is over. Then it gets destroyed. What happens? Pot space and total space, it appears that pot space merges with total space, but they're one. Even like this, they're one. So like this, they're one. They're always one. Whether it's like this or like this, they're always one because this cannot make them two. Remember, this body, this mind cannot make consciousness two. It cannot. Space is so subtle that we can't cut through it, divide through it. What to talk of that consciousness? So when this body-mind complex goes, it's the same. It's just that there's no body-mind complex. So point number two, there's no laya. Okay, 1 minute here. I got a message that somebody cannot hear clearly. So I just want to make sure that you can hear me. You can hear me? Okay, good. All right. Now, so point one is there's no birth and there is no, point number two is there's no laya, there's no destruction. Of what? Of space, of consciousness. Of this body, yes, but of space, none. Now, point number three. Are you with me so far? Everybody's following so far? There's no mala, means there's no actual impurity. So if you take this body-mind complex, if I fill it with dirt and mud, right? The pot space actually there doesn't really get affected by it. The dirt belongs to me, this cup, this body-mind complex, but it's not in the pot space. It doesn't belong to the pot space. It doesn't touch the pot space. So the dirt, whatever impurity, belongs to the body and mind. It doesn't touch the self. The self is untouched by any impurity. So there is no mala. That Atma cannot get contaminated. Atma cannot get dirty. Atma is pure, ever, ever pure. No mala. Then the next one is there's no avayava. Avayava means there's no parts. So it's not like there's two. It's not that there's actually Jivatma and Paramatma. Not that there's two, because they cannot be broken. That consciousness cannot be broken. So it's not two, it's just one. And the last point is there's no vikara. Means that total space did not become this pot space. It just is. It just is. While I said these points to you, one after the other, they take a lot of contemplation to really sink in. So if you need to listen to this again, you can, but this is what it is. So contemplate on these. So this is just a notion. This body, mind, it's just giving us a seeming notion of division. It's giving us a seeming notion of impurity, of birth, of death, when actually it just is. This is what Bhagavad means by Divya Janma. Now, one might ask, the next question you ask is, so if this is Jiva, what is Ishvara? So Ishvara then will be the totality of all these individual parts. Just for the sake of comprehending it, the totality of all of these parts will be Bhagavan or Ishvara. So the same thing that applies to Jiva is the same thing that will apply to Ishvara. Only for Ishvara, it will be the totality of all the parts, but for Jiva, it will just be the individuality of the part. Rather, the individuality of the body and mind. For Ishvara, it will be the totality of all the bodies and minds. Now, one will ask, well, how did this come? I understand that this, total space and part space is one, but where did this come from? This is also space. This is also space. Remember that everything, according to our Upanishads, everything dissolves into space. Space is the subtlest element. And even now in the scientific field, they'll say that if you really, really explore matter, you'll find space, a lot of empty space. So what does that mean actually? It means that everything is actually consciousness, ultimately consciousness. How do you mean? Now think about your dream. You dreamt something. And in that dream, you dreamt that you went on a trip somewhere. You took a plane and you arrived at the airport and you met your relatives and you had a nice meal together. And then you woke up. So in the dream, there was an airplane, airport, your relatives, you had a meal, then you woke up and everything was or is you, right? It appears that there's a plane and all of these things, but when you wake up, everything is you. The same way, everything is that pure consciousness alone. So how did this come about? How did this body-mind come about? It is pure consciousness alone. Whenever there is a confusion, well, how did this come? Think about the dream example. Then you'll understand, okay, this is how it came. Now, but the mind will still question, why? I understand, okay, you're telling me total space is that Paramatma, this part space is Jivatma. This is also that pure consciousness at the end of the day. Why did all of this happen? Atma Mayaya. That's where we bring in Maya. Means, how did all of this happen from this nirguna, formless truth, partless truth? From the formless, the form came. From partless, the part came. from the quality less, that qualities came. How did all of this happen? That is what we call Maya. That is Maya. It's inexplicable. We cannot explain it. But that is Maya. When we were in Vrindavan, somebody asked Swamiji, she was taking some of Swamiji's classes. This is in Chinmaya Vrindavan. And she said, Swamiji, I'm not able to understand this unmanifest. And then Swamiji laughed. He said, well, if you understand the unmanifest, you're in big trouble. So it's good that you're not able to understand the unmanifest. So this Maya is something that puzzles us. We cannot understand it. It's difficult to comprehend. But all of our saints and sages say, this is here now. Just strive to go beyond it. Strive to go beyond it and realize who we are here and now. So when he says, Janma Divyam Yo Veti Tatpataha, so the one who knows that as Ishvara is unborn, Jiva is also unborn. And the one who knows that as Ishvara is the non-doer, Jiva is also the non-doer. After all, the doing of the actions comes through these equipments, but that pure Atma doesn't do anything. It illumines everything. And this point of non-doer and doer will come in the next set of shlokas. So I will expound on it there. So now the one who knows this, in essence, tyaktva deham means when this very body goes, punarjanma na eti, they will not again be reborn because they were never born in the first place. So when this body-mind complex goes of a jnani, that's it. We gotta go. But for ajnani, the one who hasn't realized the truth or doesn't realize the truth, another one will appear. So this mam eti means that we realize our oneness with Bhagavad. And this is the result of the Avatara Siddhanta. So the beauty of the Bhagavad Gita, if we see, it's telling us the same message, but in very different ways. And in chapter 4, it brings it out through this Avatara Siddhanta. So this is clear for now, right? For now. Yes, so there's a question here. When I say another one will appear, the notion of another one will appear. That is correct. Yeah. Okay. So the one who knows in true light my divine birth and action, having abandoned the body, they are not born again. They come to me, O Arjuna. Now the question comes, well, who is this person who can actually realize this? So such complex philosophical thought. Who can realize this subtle thing? So Sri Krishna gives the qualities of such a being in verse number 10. So let us read this verse. Vitaragabhaya krodhaha
वीतरागभय क्रोधाः
Manmaya mamupashritaha
मन्मया मामुपाश्रिताः
Bahavo jnana tapasa
बहवो ज्ञानतपसा
Bhutamadbhavamagataha
पूता मद्भावमागताः
Vitaragabhaya krodhaha Manmaya mamupashritaha Bahavo jnana tapasa bhutamadbhavamagataha. So before we go into this verse, there is a question that came about the previous verse that I will clarify now so that it is clear. The question here is, since the previous verse talks about Ishvara's avatar, doesn't this verse refer to knowing the avatar's birth and karma? In other words, doesn't the verse say that by doing Saguna Upasana, moksha can be attained? So the answer is no. This word in this verse, number 9, you can understand this in a little bit of a different way. When you say Janma Karma Chame Divyam, one other way to understand this is the birth is so divine in that Bhagavan takes birth in so many mysterious ways that who would have known comes as Matsya the fish, or Kurma the tortoise, or Draupadi's sari, right? It's divine, or Sri Krishna's birth. It's so divine that you couldn't even imagine how divine it could be. And the karma also, what that avatar is able to do, how do they do it? How does Sri Krishna conquer all of those asuras? We're not able to understand it. So in one way, yes, the understanding can be that, but this verse or this pada that says yo veti tatvataha means the one who knows it in essence. Because it says that tatvataha, it means the one who knows then that my birth, although I am born, I appear to be born, I am unborn. Although I appear to be the doer, I am the non-doer. The one who knows that in essence, that tatvataha word is important, and punarjanma na iti, they will not have rebirth. Now, if we take this as saguna upasana, rebirth will happen, can happen. If that saguna upasana does not lead to knowledge, then rebirth will happen in higher lokas, right? So this is why when we have this word tatvataha in punarjanma na iti, we take it to be this, the divyata to be this. Unborn, born, appears born, but it's unborn. Appears to be the doer, non-doer. Then, if you also connect it to the next verse that we're about to see, the same thing, the same tone will bring, which is jnana tapasa. We will go through that. And I also have the commentary here, which I've been referring to, Adi Shankaracharya's commentary. The way he describes it is very, very beautiful. So we will go through that. Okay, so then you know that that's what it means. Okay, is this clear? Yeah. Okay. Right. If there's follow-up, you can type. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Now. Yes, Saguna Upasana can lead to Brahmaloka. That is correct. There are specific kinds of upasanas can lead, yes, that is true, from where there is no rebirth. If that upasana turns into jnana, that's very important. If it does not, then it can lead to rebirth. Brahma Bhuvana Loka in chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita. Until there, we can get rebirth. If that upasana does not lead to jnana. Okay? Right. Now, we come to this verse 10. Now, who is this person who can actually gain this knowledge? So he's trying to show, Sri Krishna is trying to show that this knowledge has been, people have been practicing this throughout. People have walked this path before. This is not new. So who is this qualified person who's actually able to understand or realize this? So the first is Vitaragha Bhaya Krodhaha. the one who's free from raga. Vita means free from raga, attachment, bhaya, fear, krodha, anger. This we are very familiar with. Manmaya, the one who's absorbed in me. Mamupashritaha, the one who takes refuge in me. Ashrita means taking refuge. Then that's a second quality. So first quality, vitaragabhaya krodhaha. Then manmaya, second quality. Mamupashritaha, third quality. Jnana tapasa putaha. That's a fourth quality. The one who's purified by the austerity of knowledge, or fire of knowledge. Bahavaha, many. Mam bhavam, my being. Agataha, many have attained my being. Okay? So what does this mean? Freed from attachment, fear, and anger, absorbed in me, taking refuge in me, purified by the fire of knowledge, many have attained my being. Okay. Vita raga bhaya krodha. What is this raga? This raga means this attachment is a strong like to something that gives me joy. So something that attracts me, something that gives me joy, I have a strong like towards it. And that forms an attachment. This is called raga. This emotion is raga. Strong like towards something that is pleasurable to me. Now, what does this raga presuppose? This raga presupposes that I forgot my Ananda Swarupa. Because if I understood that I am the source of joy, if I understood that I am Ananda, why am I going to look outside for joy? Why am I going to get so drawn to the world outside for joy? So that raga is gone for somebody who has realized that they were Ananda, that they are Ananda Swarupa. Now, the next one is bhaya, or fear. Fear means that if there is raga, if there's a strong like for something pleasing to me, I'm afraid when something threatens it, or I'm afraid when something takes it away. That's when fear happens. So let's say, number one, I am so attached to my body. I have such a strong like towards my body that I take care of it and pamper it 24/7. In fact, all my attention is on my body. So if somebody threatens it, I'm afraid. And of dying of disease, I'm afraid. So this bhaya makes us forget our Sat Swarupa, that we are actually existence. We are pure existence, and yet we become afraid. When we forget our Sat Swarupa, we feel bhaya, or fear. Fear also, in simple terms, is that when I have a strong like towards a promotion in my career, my job, in my workplace, and I feel like there's a threat. Somebody came and he or she's better qualified than me. Then I am afraid. I'm afraid because they can take my job. And if they take my job, then what will I do? I'm also afraid. I don't know what to do with myself. And I get stuck in that moment where, how do I live? So when something that we're attached to gets threatened or taken away, we become afraid. And that's why this raga, or this attachment, is the root of so many things. Then not only fear happens, but anger also happens. And this anger is krodha. This anger happens when that object of my attachment, it also gets threatened and taken away. Another emotion that I could have is anger. As somebody takes something away from me, somebody that I love so dearly passes away. I become so angry. Many people become angry at God. People become angry at the doctors. They want to sue the hospital. They want to do an autopsy and all of that. They become angry at this whole system. This system is crazy. They become angry at the world. Some people, they become angry at everybody they know. Right? When something that we are attached to gets taken away or threatened, another emotion that we could have is anger. My favorite computer, my favorite gadget, device, somebody steals it or somebody borrows it, but it's all cracked when they return it. I get so angry. And when we get angry, we forget our Sarvatma Swarupa. Means it is that same self expressing everywhere. That self in me is the self in all. We forget that. That's why we get angry. So this raga, whenever we have a strong attachment, that's the root. If that comes, we're in for a ride of fear, we're in for a ride of anger, and ultimately sorrow. So the first thing is that the first qualification is from whom this strong attachment, this anger and fear is gone. Now a question can come, is it possible to live without attachment? Is it possible to live without being attached to someone or something? We had a very beautiful exercise on Sunday. I teach the high schoolers, in our Bal Vihar, and we talked about attachment, Dhritarashtra's attachment, Arjuna's attachment, and all of us had to write on a post-it notes what our attachments were. And we had to drop one attachment each step of the way until we had our last attachment. And everyone held on to that last attachment. It was so beautiful to see how everyone acknowledged what their attachments were. But the reality is that we don't have to drop that attachment. We can just turn that attachment into love. And this is where we have to really think about what that means. This attachment means we're depending on something else for our source of joy, emotionally. That can be turned into love when we understand that we are already complete and the other person is also complete. And we are independent of them for our source of joy. So that attachment can be turned into love. Vitaraga. But then the question is, I may be independent of, let's say, my spouse or my child or my parents for my source of joy. While I'm independent of them, where will I get my joy? What if I have not realized that I am Atma Swarupa? Where will I get my joy? So our scriptures say, you feel free to attach and depend on Guru, on Bhagavan, and on scriptures. Feel free. Until later on, we realize that we are one with them. These we can keep. And also positive things like satsang, etc., dharma, things like that we can keep until we are able to realize our oneness. So vitaraga bhaya krodha. These words are very, very powerful to just even think about. Now, here for manmaya, there is a very beautiful definition here given in the Pasha. So I want to highlight this since there was a question. Manmaya here means Ishwar Abheda Darshana, the one who doesn't see themselves as different from God. This is called Manmaya. This is the second, we're on the second qualification. So if Manmaya means I don't see myself different from God, meaning that the self in me and the self in Bhagavan are one, the same, right? the divine birth, we're unborn. The divine karma, we're the non-doer. That same nature in God is that same nature in me. What happens if we think that God is different from me? What happens? If God is different from me, then that means that, first of all, God is limited. We made God limited because God could be in other places, but God is not in me. So we limited God, object-wise. Then if we say God is not, in my heart per se, then God is not everywhere. He could be in some places, but not in my heart. Not here. It's different, away from me. So again, we limited God. Then God is not here with me. God is somewhere else in the past. God was there, but now God is not here. Or God will be there, but now God is not here. So then again, we're limiting that God in time. So if God is different from me, God or Bhagavan doesn't exist here, doesn't exist now, doesn't exist in my being, then Bhagavan is limited. And why would we want to attain a limited God? Why? Right? It would only make sense, even logically, if that truth is unlimited. None of us would want a limited being, a limited God. If my God was born and he died, then why would I want that God? Right? So manmaya means that I understand that in essence, now I'm speaking about in essence, I and God are the same. In essence. Bhagavan is, of course, associated with totality. I'm associated with individuality, but in essence, we are one. Then it says here that mam upashritaha. So what does that mean? Here in the commentary, it says, mam eva parameshwaram upashritaha kevala jnana nishta. So somebody who's rooted in knowledge. That's what mam upashrita is. Now, again, I'm going by Adi Shankaracharyaji's commentary on this verse, but there are many, many other commentaries you can go by. So mam upashrita is somebody who's rooted, who takes refuge in that knowledge. After this, I will also show you a different way to look at it. Then it says, Puta jnana tapasa, one who has been purified by knowledge, purified by the fire of knowledge. So through that tapas of knowledge, what is a tapas of knowledge? The austerity of knowledge is shravana, listening, manana, reflection, and nididhyasana, contemplation. This is the tapas of knowledge. And through that, one who has been purified. What does purity mean? Purity means I am the pure Atman and nothing actually can touch me. So, jnana tapasa puta. Bahavaha, many, some, madbhavam agataha. They have attained my being. Means here it says moksha. Ishvara bhavam is moksha. Means they have realized their oneness with me. These are the ones who are able to know me in essence. So the one from whom attachment, fear, anger have gone, the one who understands that I am not different from them, the one who takes refuge in this knowledge, the one who's been purified by this knowledge, that purification is really that removal of all of that ignorance. They realize their oneness with me. Now, very beautifully, Gurudev also touches upon another way to look at it, another way to look at this verse. When we look at how this can relate to our lives, right? How is actually one able to get to this state? So here he brings the three yogas: Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. Because after all, for us to be able to realize this or take this in, the mind has to be in a pure state. So Vitaraghabhaya Krodhaha means one who's gone through Karma Yoga, one who's gone through that selfless, dedicated action for a higher idea above and beyond themselves. Because when we do that, we cannot have likes and dislikes. We cannot have strong attachments because everything is about that greater and grander vision. Then Manmaya and Mamupashritaha can symbolize Bhakti Yoga. Because Manmaya has that idea of losing yourself in Bhagavad. So losing your entire being, your thoughts, your words, your deeds in Bhagavan. And Mamupashrita, taking Bhagavan as your sole refuge, means I belong to God. There's no other refuge, there's no other place of surrender for me. I wholeheartedly seek God and belong to God. And that is my place of solace and peace. And then in the next line, this Jnana Tapasa Puta represents Jnana Yoga. Because of course it is Shravanam, Mananam, and Nididhyasana. And so those who have been tuned with these three yogas, they attain my being. So this is also another beautiful way to look at this. There's a question here. Can I be a part of God just like I'm a wave in an ocean? This way we won't be limiting God, right? If we say that I am a part of God, that means God has parts. Huh? That means God has parts. What happens when something has parts? When one part breaks, others also get affected, right? We see it in a car. When something breaks in your car, what happens? One part of your car breaks. Then they'll when you bring your car to the mechanic, then they'll say, "Oh, you by the way, you also have to fix this and your tire and this and that. All the things you have to fix." When in your body you have something in the throat and you go to the doctor will say, "Oh, you have strep throat, but let me also examine you. Oh, do you know you also have this? And your heart is like this, and your kidneys like this, and so I have to give you all these medicines." So if God has parts, when one part gets sick, oh, the other part also gets affected. When one part breaks down, the other also will break down, right? But when the one wave breaks, it doesn't affect the ocean. Now that is a limitation of example. So now you have to see every example is very much connected to a point and a concept of Advaita Vedanta. So that wave and ocean, that example is taken to show that their essence is water. So this is what happens if we feel we are a part of God. Well, God cannot have parts. Then all kinds of things will happen. So Manmaya Mamupashritaha here means that Bhakti Yoga. Can mean also that Bhakti Yoga, right? And that Jnana Tapasa Puta can mean that Jnana Yoga. Now, just one other thought came to me today because it is Navaratri. So, Vitaraghabhaya Krodhaha can be Durga Devi because she's the one who will take away all of our raga and krodha and bhaya. She's the one who will take away all of our impurities. And Lakshmi Devi very beautifully blesses us with the wealth of virtue. Manmaya ma upashitaha can be Lakshmi Devi. And of course, Jnana Tapasa Puta is our Saraswati Devi. She is the one who will give us this knowledge. And Madbhava Magataha, is Vijaya Dashami, when finally that ego dissolves into the self. So it can also be seen that way. But these are the ones who are qualified to really understand this truth. Now, the next question is, okay, this is really, really wonderful, but why, how come other people are not doing this? Yeah, why aren't people seeking this truth? What are they doing with their lives? What are they seeking? So that we will see in our next class. Okay? Today, I'm just going to now, in the few minutes I have left, I'll just summarize because I won't be able to go into full thought in the next verse. Today, very important, we've seen verses 9 and 10. The divyata, the divinity of Bhagavan's birth and karma, which means that if we understand the essence of Bhagavan, that he's also unborn and the non-doer, and that our essence is the same, then we also do not have any rebirth, because even now we don't have birth. And we realize our oneness with that truth. Who are the people who are able to do this or who have done this? Again, those who have been freed from attachment, fear, anger, those who have taken refuge in God, taken refuge in that knowledge, realize their non-difference with Ishvara, been purified by knowledge, they realize their oneness. Okay. So we will say the closing prayer, and then those who have questions, you can stay back and we will address those, right? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om, everyone, and I'll see you next week. And those who want to stay back for questions, please stay back.